Hey everyone, Ben Cooper Radio, episode number 161. Now, if we've got some ambient noise in this show, a fire engine goes past, Rachel sounds a bit mono, we've just done a sound test and it sounds a bit funny, apologies, but I'm in really dreary Manchester. I'm on the road. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see I'm a bit dark and stuff. So we've kind of got a bit of a makeshift podcast. Hopefully it'll sound alright. Hopefully it'll be okay. Hopefully my iPad will be able to tether the connection okay. Do you know what? I'll do my best. That's all I'm saying, but it might not be perfect.
Good morning,
Hi, Rachel.
Ben. It's probably just as well that it's dark, seeing as you've just got out of bed.
What? So you can't see my face?
No, I can see your messy hair, though.
My messy hair, my baggy eyes. I'll be honest with the audience right now. I'm tired. I've been on the road quite a bit. There's a big new project coming in 2016, which I'm working on, which, you know, is absorbing more of my time. I've been doing a lot of weekends, but I'm going on holiday in 10 days as I record this, and I do need it. But yeah, I'm having to work quite a bit at the moment. It's not ideal. I'm a bit tired, but I'll get over it. The balance will readdress itself in 10 days' time, and it'll be all right.
That's cool. Sometimes you have to graft. Like, I actually quite like that kind of, that week to 10 days before you go away, where it's like, it's such a graft, and like, you almost feel like you're running on adrenaline, but it almost makes the holiday better.
Yeah, you do have a big relax, but the only problem with that sometimes is, you know, it's quite common to get ill when you go on holiday. Like, people are so stressed for so long and their body goes into such a relaxed state that you just pick up the first bug that you come into contact with. You end up getting a bit sniffly on holiday. It's an absolute classic. And hopefully that doesn't happen to me. I don't think I'm in a bad place. I just know that I'm kind of at, 90% at the moment rather than 100.
Well, I have news.
Yes?
I've moved to London.
Oh.
Full time. My bags are packed, my stuff is being shipped, and for the foreseeable future, I shall be residing in Richmond, London. So that's double trouble. That's me and you in the UK at the same time for the foreseeable future.
Have we not mentioned this on the podcast before?
I don't think I've actually officially announced that I'm moving back. Like, obviously, like I did spend like a good 7 weeks here a month ago, and then I moved, and then I went back to Sydney. I had to tie up some loose ends there, and then I was in Vegas for 2 weeks, and then I was back in Sydney, and then back obviously to London on Sunday. So it's been a bit of a whirlwind. I'm not sure that I certainly haven't officially announced it publicly. You may have let it slip.
I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't said anything.
Well, there you go. There's the news. I'm back in London, and for the foreseeable future, I'm here to stay.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm right now struggling to be surprised because I obviously knew before everyone else. So it's not like I can now go, oh my God, Rachel's in London, because I knew before we recorded this.
That's true. You did know about 2 months ago, so it's no new news for you. So that's my news. Aside from that, Vegas was amazing. 2 weeks in Vegas, I must be fucking mental. As we discussed previously, Vegas is Sin City. Like, it's a fun place to be. It's an adult playground. I was actually for a conference as well as a holiday, and I won't lie, I had 2 of the worst hangovers of the past 5 years. They were both based off tequila, and I even said the phrase, I am never drinking again, and I never ever use that phrase because I'm Welsh, but I did use that phrase, particularly on the first tequila hangover, and I didn't learn. I went and I did it again. So good riddance to Vegas, certainly for the next year. You were fun, but I'm now all Vegased out, and it was funny. Like, I was at the airport, so I was due to fly from Vegas back to LA. I had a 5-hour layover and then back to Sydney, and my flight from Vegas to LA cancelled. My heart sank. Not only was I going to miss my flight from LA back to Sydney, but I just thought, I cannot, for the life of me, please God, do not let me have to spend another night in Vegas. So I booked myself on another airline, so I'm never flying Delta again because they cancelled my flight. and cost me a lot of money to get home. So I got myself on a United flight. I flew to LA and I spent one night in LA purely for the fact that I just physically could not spend another night in Vegas. So anyone who's been to Vegas will know exactly what I'm talking about. It is an amazing place to be, but it's also quite nice to get out as well.
Well, I've never been, and one day I might find out. But who knows? Who knows? It kind of looks like one of them cities like Dubai. You know, it's a big place in the middle of a desert sort of thing. Everything's there. There's a lot of debauchery. I'd probably be like you. I'd probably kill myself.
But, you know, like, there is another side to Vegas as well, and there are some amazing fun things to do over there. And, you know, the Grand Canyon is amazing. You should go and see that. It is like one of the, you know, the wonders of the world, and it is amazing and incredible to see. But don't go for 2 weeks. That was just stupid. A week is good. A week is good. You can go do the fun stuff. You can go do your pool parties, and you can go to your clubs, but you can also do the other stuff as well. 2 weeks, too long. Although I was at a conference for my second week.
Right.
Just to justify all my behaviours.
We're moving on with the show. We're moving on with the show, yeah. Right. The only thing I've got to say, Body Type Nutrition Conference, 14th, 15th of November in Manchester. 2 days, going to be amazing. We're bringing into the fold our new mindset coach, Stephen H. He will have a headline spot on the Sunday. He's going to be talking about how to get your head in the right space, how to be happy, why can't you release the kind of demons that you have, why can't you get focused, why can't you hit your goals. It's an amazing addition to our team. I think he's an incredible coach. I'm really excited to have him speak. Grab a ticket, there's still tickets available. It's an absolute bargain. I think it's £85 for a full day of learning on the Sunday. Bargain. And I know I've kind of said various things about what I'm up to, what might be happening next year. For me, in my world, I think quite a bit is changing. If you want to know what these changes are, then you'll have to be on my email list. That's the only place at the moment I think I'm going to talk about it, because I'm going to slowly start to communicate how my work is changing and what I might be doing different. So go to bencoomber.com, and then on the homepage you'll see it. There's a place to sign up to my newsletter. Sign up to my newsletter, and you will find out these things over the next 6 to 8 weeks. Anyway, I believe we have some questions from some people that listen to the show.
Yes, we do. So this first one is from Lindsay. Hi Ben and Rachel, I hope you're both well. I just stumbled upon your podcast about a month ago and I've been loving your content. Keep up the great work. My name is Lindsay and I'm writing to you from Toronto, Canada. A few months ago, I became a precision nutrition certified coach. Although I'm a full-time elementary school teacher, I absolutely love the program and I've begun working with my own clients as a part-time gig. Now that program is over, I find myself hungry to continue educating myself and to connect with other health professionals. I'm not interested in returning to school right now, but I would love, however, to be attending conferences, mini courses, special lectures, etc. I was wondering if you had any tips on how to source these types of opportunities out. Do they exist? I feel there must be a way to stay in the loop without feeling like I'm constantly on the hunt for these types of things. And any ideas that you may have to share would be appreciated. Ben, maybe you could make the trip to Toronto. I know you'll be guaranteed at least one attendee. Thank you in advance, Lindsay.
Well, everyone loves a one-man audience.
Yeah.
I think this is where the power of social media is, very relevant. And I don't know if many people know you can actually do this, but on Facebook, you can create secondary timelines. So you can go onto the little kind of drop-down arrow thing when you're viewing someone's post. And if you click that arrow, you can create it as like an interest list on Facebook. So I have a timeline on my Facebook that if I click on it, I think I might have mentioned this before, it's called Cool Shit I Like. If I click that button, I will see a Facebook timeline of only the people I want to follow. So the people that I follow in the industry, where I might want to follow their blogs, videos, etc. So that can be a good thing to do. And on those people that you are following, follow people, I suppose, like me in the fitness industry. Follow people in Canada, follow Precision Nutrition, follow people like Brett Contreras. Find out the people that often attend conferences, do conferences, speak at conferences, advertise conferences, and just follow them and keep abreast of the information. Sign up to a few people's emails list so you get to directly see this information when it comes into your inbox. Like, we're now running a conference in Manchester. We've published the information on Facebook, via our email list, etc. to, hopefully get as many people there as possible. So I think it's just a case of following these people, keeping your ear to the ground. When it comes up, bag a ticket.
I have nothing further to add. Exactly what I do. And I started out, I remember when Facebook started to boom back in, when was it? About 2007, maybe?
Boom. I'd say later than that. If you're talking about it booming, I'd say it was booming around.
Well, not booming, but I do remember, I joined Facebook when I'd left university in 2005-ish. And I guess I built my network and I started doing conferences and events because, back then it was like adding people as a friend and seeing what they were doing. So, so-and-so is a mutual friend of so-and-so, and you can get to see the circles that people are in. And now it's harder now that Facebook has been around for a long time, and, the people who are very popular already have 5,000 friends. And so quite often they'll have also a page, so a fan page in their name. So definitely follow the fan page, and and you can also add the fan page to your favorites so that you will make sure that you will see every single post that person makes. Because the problem with fan pages now on Facebook is that not every post gets seen. So an example would be if you videos that you post directly to Facebook on your fan page go a lot more viral because Facebook likes them. If, for example, you were to post exactly the same video but as a YouTube link, it doesn't get as much reach. And as a subscriber to somebody's page, you may not actually see that video. So it is important to add somebody's page. If you really like somebody, add them to your favorites so that you get to see every post that they do make.
That goes with even our work. Like, if you find you miss out on my or Rachel's stuff on Facebook, make sure you go onto the notifications, turn them on, add it to your favourites, and then you'll always see our updates if you kind of value them, I suppose. And that's because the rules of Facebook constantly change. So it's not that, we might have disappeared from Facebook. You might just not be seeing it because the Facebook rules have changed. But email's the one way that you can guarantee you'll always see what is happening. So, the key people that you love, sign up to their email address because you'll always see that email. And if it's not relevant, then delete it. It's a 1 second job.
Absolutely. Cool. Awesome. Next question is from Ollie. Hi, Ben. First off, thank you for the knowledge and insight that you and Rachel provide. You two are amusing and funny to listen to, which is probably why the show is so popular. Anyways, on to my question. I'm always somebody who likes to eat until they are full to a belly-busting state. What would be the best steps to take to get me to that unsatisfied feeling without eating a ton of food? I don't feel I can eat a meal at any time without feeling stuffed. I've been using xanthan gum in oats and Greek yogurt to increase the volume of food, but this doesn't sit well with me. It doesn't sit well with me training, as it can take hours to digest. I also add loads of veggies to meals to fill me up. I think that this wanting to feel stuffed is a psychological issue that could be rectified before I eat a meal. Any ideas? And keep up the good work, Ollie.
So this is quite an interesting one, and why I threw it in, and also because I think your question has already answered itself, but you're looking for another answer, and that answer, doesn't really exist to a degree. Now, we know that the foods that fill you up are protein, so eating plenty of lean protein at a meal will help fill you up. Fibre, so eating lots of vegetables. Fruits would probably be secondary because they're broken down a bit quicker, tend to not have as much fibre often as vegetables. And then stuff like, oats, that kind of stuff that have a quite a voluminous content per gram of carbohydrate and additional fibre. And then you can use fibrous foods like xanthan gum, apple fibre pectin, psyllium husk, that kind of thing. But the problem is that's not really still getting around the fact of that you need to do that every time you eat, and for me that's a problem. Now I'll give you an example of how I rectified this, because I had a similar feeling when I kind of lost all my weight. So I went from obese to slim, and I liked that feeling of feeling full. That was one of the reasons I was fat. I ate a lot, period. So one thing that I did is I went through quite a long period of intermittent fasting, and intermittent fasting allowed me to teach my body that I can survive with not eating any food, because you go throughout the morning, or that's the most popular form of intermittent fasting, the 16-8 setup, which was popularised by Martin Burkham. So you fast till lunchtime. So from 6 in the morning till 12 or 1 o'clock, you're not eating anything. And yeah, it's quite hard work initially, but you get used to it. Your body gets used to not having food. You learn how to get by, just using the energy substrates that are in your body. And then you get fuller easier. Your stomach shrinks. If you don't eat for long periods of time, your stomach will shrink. So I think maybe going through a period of intermittent fasting might help, purely from that perspective. It will start to teach your body, it will start to maybe shrink your stomach slightly, that it doesn't need as much food to fill you up. And I think that might help kind of reprogram things. But that's my only real pearl of knowledge on that one, I'm afraid.
There's two things here. People say, oh, well, your stomach stretches and your stomach will shrink. I think that has... I mean, look, whether it's actually scientifically proven, I would be fully honest with you, I don't know. But it makes sense, right? Like, if you're used to eating large volumes and large quantities of food, then your body becomes used to that and it adapts to that. Similarly, I've actually taken girls who've been eating 6 or 7 meals a day, and then I get them eating 4 meals a day, because I believe that is, that might be a better eating style for that particular person. They really struggle to get 4 meals in because the volume of food is so much more. However, they do it for a couple of weeks. It may be even just a week that it takes, and they feel so much better initially. So, I'm not a fan of intermittent fasting, but if it's used for something like this, I think that it could be a way to train yourself to actually eat less, and to, quote unquote, shrink your stomach. So I think it does, I think that carries weight there. And, Ben, if you've done it yourself, then, if it works on you, it may work on somebody else. But I do think, Ollie has, brought attention to it here, that it could be a psychological issue. Definitely. I definitely think that there could be some, it's a feeling of missing out sometimes, particularly in those overeaters or previous binge eaters, where the feeling of missing out and the scarcity of food becomes a real psychological issue. Even if it's at a subconscious level, they don't, they feel like they have to eat everything on their plate, or they have to eat to their full. It's a very primal thing to think. So perhaps seeking some help from a psychological perspective as well may be of some benefit.
Here's another thing. Make yourself busy. Now, one reason I don't have a big interest in food a lot of the time is because I'm busy, and the stuff I'm doing, to me, is more important than eating. And if you've got such a connection with your food that you really want to sit down and enjoy it, and you want to feel full and savour it, that's cool. I'm all for enjoying food and savouring the taste. But, a lot of the time I will sit down at lunchtime, and it is a case of I eat and then I get back to what I'm doing. And really, I don't really often think about how full I am or how big that meal was, that kind of thing, because I'm just moving on with life. So I think that's maybe something that you could focus on as well, as about, are you thinking about food too much? Is your environment stimulating you? Do you enjoy your job? All that kind of stuff. Because otherwise you'll think about food, and that's why a lot of people eat when they're bored. They're at home at night, they're not really doing anything tonight, they sit in front of the telly, they've already had dinner, they're not actually hungry, you're just bored, and you're like, well, I'll go and have a nice lolly, I'll go and have a bag of chips, I'll go and have whatever's sitting in your cupboard, I don't know. So get busy.
Boom, you've absolutely just hit the nail on the head. And I was sitting here going, don't butt in, but absolutely hit the nail on the head. And, prior to us actually recording this podcast, Ben and I were talking about a new program that I'm bringing out later on this year, early next year. Obviously, Ben's got some awesome guys coming in and coaching mindset and stuff, because it's been a theme really for a lot of the podcasts that we've recorded this year is the psychology of dieting and the psychology of being happy and what it is that makes somebody happy and what is your purpose in life. And both, Ben and I, like on, this wasn't intentional, but we're both sort of we're really into this and, really passionate about getting people happy and healthy and really going down that path of, what is your purpose and why are you still so bored? And, I've certainly identified that there are certainly sort of three key areas or three key, categories of people when we're looking at, at binge eating, and we're looking at why people don't get results. And there are, 3 or 4 distinct categories. And one of those categories is that you don't actually know what you're doing with your life. And so, call it life coaching, call it, dream chasing, whatever it is. But these things are now becoming of critical importance when we're talking about long-term body transformation. I finished my rant there.
I know. I'm here. I'm ready. I'm waiting. Next.
I'm ready to go. Okay. You have nothing further to add. Okay, so we've done that. Next question. Question is from Helen. Now, this is a really interesting one. Hi, Ben. I'm a long-time listener of the show, and I use it as a great reference point of nutrition-based knowledge. I have a few friends, in total, who've recently had blood work done by a doctor out here in the US where I'm based. I am British, who've been told that they have adrenal dysfunction. We all do CrossFit, and adrenal fatigue in this realm has become somewhat trendy. I'm a bit skeptical they've all had the same diagnosis by the same doctor, and they've also been given the same recommendation to go on the Swiss diet, and have been advised to avoid protein for at least 3 weeks, maybe more, in order to aid their adrenal and hormonal function. This has set alarm bells ringing for me. I have somewhat limited knowledge of nutrition, but everything I have heard or read has emphasized protein as a foundation of healthy nutrition. It seems counterintuitive to me that people who have adrenal fatigue resultant from excessive and or long-term physical stresses would be advised to avoid protein. I'm worried this is only going to make them worse, but they're all buying into this advice. Do you think I should warn them against it, or is there any basis in the Swiss diet in avoiding protein to improve health? Many thanks, and keep up the great work on the podcast. I always recommend it to anyone with nutrition queries. Helen.
So, firstly, if you go to a doctor expressing a problem with adrenal fatigue, the doctor will explore what you've gone in for in the first place. I'm feeling a bit burnt out. I've been reading about adrenal fatigue, etc., etc. So, firstly, I don't think the doctor's the problem in terms of what they've tested, because they've gone in there and kind of said this stuff. The doctor's done the test and gone, well, yeah, actually your adrenals aren't in the best place possible. And yes, CrossFit is an amazing way to screw up your body if you do not recover properly, you don't eat enough, you don't eat flipping carbs, because paleo and low carb dieting is popular in CrossFit. All these things do help burn an individual out. But I don't, to me, I personally don't see how cutting out protein is going to help. I don't see how that's going to solve the problem. This is all lifestyle, and we've talked about it so many times on the podcast. The adrenal glands are lifestyle driven. You need to get in bed on time. You need to eat enough. You don't want to train too hard. You need to be hydrated. You need to get enough nutrition. I don't know the dynamics of the Swiss diet because I don't really look up diets. Like, we know the foundations of human health. We know that we need protein consistently and to hit a minimum requirement. We know that we need lots of nutrition. We need fiber to keep our bowels healthy. And then we have energy demands which come from fat and carbohydrates. And, if we need a couple of nutricals, supplements, herbs to help the hormones, then do that, and do that under the guise of a qualified practitioner that knows what they're kind of giving you and why. But otherwise, it's all lifestyle driven, and it's all weighing up the in and the out of the body.
I just think that something like this is, and all right, some people might get results from it, but it just seems ridiculous that, these guys are CrossFitters, and, there are some CrossFitters who are absolutely phenomenal athletes. I'm not going to take that away from them. They are phenomenal athletes, but they're also eating and recovering well. But when you get yourself to this stage and you've been diagnosed with adrenal fatigue because of excessive exercise, let's look at the obvious here. Cut back on your exercise and start eating more of a diet which is sustainable. And most CrossFitters don't eat anywhere enough carbohydrates as a start. So going back to what Ben said, just come back to the basics. And here's the problem. By going on a Swiss diet, it's just another patch. It's just another thing. It's one more thing to add to the perpetual nature of somebody's downward spiral. First it's CrossFit, then it's perhaps the overconsumption of kale and fucking coconut oil, and then you bring it back and I've got to do something else and I'm going to have to be extreme this time, so let's go on a Swiss diet. Like whatever happens to balance, and whatever happens to maintaining a balance and a normal diet, really.
Also, you got to be careful if you're still training and you go to a doctor and he gives you a diet that is low protein and you're still training hard, you're going to probably run yourself into the ground even more because you no longer have that elevated protein content to recover properly. So if anything, you'll screw yourself up even more.
Exactly, because I can't imagine, what it's like when you're really into your training, and when you get to the stage of adrenal fatigue, your mind is like almost so confused that you want to continue training because you think that that's making you feel better, and as much as you push and you push and you push, your results aren't there, but you're almost addicted to exercise, and then you go past that point where you're utterly exhausted and you physically can't exercise. So it's a slippery slope, and I think that a step backwards and take a 30,000 foot view on things and actually really look at your behaviors and ask yourself, is this normal? And I'm not advocating being normal, because let's be honest, normal is boring, but there has to be, I guess balance is the better word for it. You can train intensely at really high levels, and there are long-term CrossFitters out there who are very healthy. However, it is very dangerous also, because it's a very addictive sport, and often people don't have the adequate recovery and the nutrition that basically should pair hand in hand with it.
Let me rehash an old idea as well, in that if you reduce your training load, nothing bad will happen if you reduce or change your dietary intake appropriately. So I did a seminar last night for British Military Fitness, because I'm now their nutrition expert, and we started to do some kind of education with the members, which do boot camps. And in a way, a boot camp is similar in some respects to CrossFit. It can be very explosive, very intense, very metabolically demanding. And I started to talk about people needing to rest more, because I knew, because the coach had told me before I went into this environment, that some of the members were training 6-7 times a week and not having a rest day. And I was like wow, like I take 2 rest days a week minimum to keep on top of my training and keep myself fresh. And these guys are people that are not getting their nutrition as right as I am. And I started to talk about reducing training load, and a couple of people in the audience gave them the I'm shitting myself look. Like, if I reduce my training load, I will get fat, bad things will happen, I'll lose my fitness, all this kind of stuff. No, you won't. Like, if you change your nutrition and your lifestyle according to your output, like, I'm not training as much this week because I'm on the road. I'll train a bit more the back end of the week. What am I doing? I'm just eating a bit less. I'm eating less to account for the exercise that I'm not doing. And, I know that being on the road, I won't sleep as well. I'm in and out of hotels. I'm in non-ideal environments. So that puts a little bit extra stress on my body. So actually training might not be the best thing. I want to keep my stress kind of intact and help myself as much as possible, because the main thing that I want to get out of my day is my work. I'm self-employed. My work is on my head, and really my work is more important than my training. It's more important than other things. So I need to keep my brain fresh for that kind of stuff, because our brain and our body only has so much capacity. So, with this kind of adrenal fatigue thing, the reason why I mention this is you're going to have to scale back. You can't keep going to CrossFit 5 to 6 days a week. You're going to have to go back to 2 or 3 days a week, probably start doing single-based lifts, little bit of low-level cardio. You've got to dial it back, you've got to rehab, and then you've got to scale back up again and match the diet accordingly. Nothing bad will happen, no monsters will jump out of the closet if you start training a bit less, if you do things appropriately.
I just want to refer back to a podcast that you did with Dr. Jay Teeter. And he talks a lot about hunger, energy, and cravings. And when your hunger and your energy and your cravings are in check, you're often in a very balanced state. And Ben, you and I can, we're in a pretty balanced state. Yes, we have stressful periods, but yes, I've been in Vegas 2 weeks. I did train whilst I was over there, but I certainly wasn't lifting to the capacity that I do here. And I certainly wasn't walking anywhere near as much. So therefore my caloric expenditure throughout the day was far less than what I would usually be expending whilst I'm in Sydney or London or, just running my day-to-day stuff. So I ate less. And I can do that because A, I was less hungry, and B, I also know that my energy expenditure isn't there, so therefore I don't need as many calories to see me through the day, but I can still maintain the same energy levels. Now, for somebody that's healthy, that's easy to do. When you're in an adrenally fatigued state, you have to listen to this even more, and you do have to listen to a coach, or you certainly have to follow guidelines in order to get yourself back to a state where you can truly trust and listen to your body. So when you're in that adrenally fatigued state, you will be having cravings for different things, which are made worse by the fact that you are still doing extreme amounts of exercise. Your hunger, energy, and cravings come into check a lot quicker when you do actually reduce the volume of your exercise. So, like Ben said, no monsters are going to jump out of the closet. You'll actually find that you'll start feeling a lot better, a lot quicker when you do, when you do come into a lower volume of training.
The thing with the human body is it actually takes longer than we think for it to repair. Now, when we look at ourselves as fitness people, we often look about recovery from like an acute training perspective. So I go out for a run, it takes me, let's say, 24 hours to repair. And we look at the body quite often in these small training cycles. But what we're talking about when it comes to kind of fatigue, stress getting on top of you a little bit more, like, my work, for example, is a little bit on top of me now. Like I'm doing a bit too much. Now, I know that I can't have, like, if I took the weekend wouldn't be enough to fully recharge me. It's not my muscles that are fatigued. I can't have a quick change around. It's my mind, it's my central nervous system, it's going into kind of almost my cells. It needs, I need a week off, and I've got a holiday coming up, it's not a problem. But, when we're looking at this stuff, when we're looking at fatigue on a deeper level, central nervous system, mindset, it's not a 48-hour weekend off. It's 2, 3, 4 weeks of scaling back, reassessing, treating the body right. So you have to invest a little bit of time in this, and you have to be patient. And this is why, coming back to the previous question when I talked about yourself being busy, is you need to change your focus. Like, some people panic when they're on a week off from training. I'm like, pick up that hobby again. Like, when I am off from training or I have a week off, I just end up doing the other things that I love. Like, I go to the cinema more, big fan of going to the cinema. I like doing a bit of shooting. I go and do that more. I meet up with my friends more. I make time to go out for dinner. I just realign my focus. And then when you're busy, this stuff becomes a lot easier. It's when you're sitting at home munching over, oh God, I'm not allowed this, I'm not allowed that, got to go to bed on time. That's when it becomes a lot more difficult, because you're kind of stewing in your own thoughts and thinking about the negative side of the stuff that you've got to do, which is scaling back and treating your body right.
Absolutely. There's far more important things in life out there rather than counting calories and making sure that you go to the gym 7 days a week for 2-hour sessions at a time.
Right, let's move on.
Next question.
Next question.
Yeah, next question. This question is from Thomas. Hi, Ben and Rachel. First of all, thank you for answering my question on a previous podcast, as it really helped me out. My question is to do with social media platforms, and particularly YouTube. The fitness community has taken to YouTube, particularly in the recent years, with lots of people documenting their progress, eating habits, and general life online for those who care to watch it. These can be thoroughly entertaining, however, not all is the most backed up nor precise information. However, it was through YouTube that I initially found my love for fitness and nutrition, and that also seems the case for others. I was wondering if you think this expansion of fitness YouTubers is a good thing for the public, as it inspires particularly the younger generation to learn more in this field, or on the other hand, do you think it's more of a fashion following? That going to the gym is now fashionable and cool, and it's as just if you were to follow the if it fits your macros diet protocol, wear a stringer vest and drink pre-workouts. Would love to know your thoughts on this, and apologies for the essay. Thanks for continuing to be a source of knowledge and inspiration, Thomas.
I think, with any platform, Instagram, Facebook, email, websites, YouTube, everything, things are always going to have their pros and cons. There's always going to be good practitioners. There's always going to be bad practitioners. Now, the beautiful thing about YouTube is it's visual. We now live in an age where people, it's hard to read a blog and sometimes apply that information. But when you're looking at someone credible online on YouTube and they're showing you what they eat, how to prepare it, how they're training, so you can look at planes of movement, how they're actually moving, the intensity on their face and the way that they're moving their body, the quality of the food, all this kind of stuff. It enables you to create a greater connection, and because a lot of us are visual learners, I think YouTube has been fantastic. One of my plans next year is to be a lot more active on YouTube, hell of a lot more. Several videos a week. We have a big plan because I believe that I can communicate well on video and get people to change more efficiently because they can see what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, connecting with things. And I think it's nice because YouTube has kind of been a younger generational thing. Like, young people have attached themselves to YouTube. That, I walk into my gym and there is loads more young people getting into fitness. Like, there's loads of 19, 20, 21-year-olds in my gym in awesome shape compared to where I was, when I was 19, 20, and the information that was in our hands. So I actually think it's brought better information as a whole to the fitness industry. The information that I was using when I was 19 wouldn't have got me into that shape. These guys were in way better shape comparably. So I think while, we can sit here, like some of these guys in my gym, fuck what they're wearing. I have no idea what some of them are wearing. It's ridiculous. But that's my opinion, right? And if it makes them happy and they think they look cool, then, whatever. And it's not really about that. It's about the results that they're getting and the benefits that they're getting out of it. So I think as a whole, it's only been a positive movement and it's helped more people change for the better.
I agree. We can always look at the other side of it as well. And if it's, in my opinion, if it's getting somebody else into the gym, even if it's just kickstarting them on their journey, then it's a good thing. I think the downside of it is, the flip side of it is when, also women and guys become very addicted and very obsessed with one particular person and the way that particular person looks. I hear it all the time. Oh, well, how do I, get legs like this person? How do I get a tummy like this person? Well, frankly, you're never going to, because you're not that person. And everybody's individual. So I think as long as you watch these things and you're, inspired to go work out rather than, forcing yourself to look and act a particular way like your, idol in the video, then it can only be viewed as a good thing. It's inspiring somebody to work out, which is great.
Definitely. It's like anything, exercise caution. If their stuff seems very one-dimensional, like I know that there's people that you can follow that all they talk about is their meal prep and their training and all this kind of stuff. And while that's great, take inspiration from that. Don't get drawn into a point where you focus that on so much that you lose sight of why you're doing all this stuff. That it makes you happy, that it helps you lead a better life, all that kind of stuff. Because, the fitness industry, its downside is it becomes orthorexic. You develop orthorexic behavior that you're focusing so much on healthy eating, your training, that the other side of your life which is why you do this fitness stuff to lead a better life, gets neglected. And there is trends of that in YouTube if you don't watch out for it, because like Rachel said, you get drawn into it. You get drawn into what this person is doing because you find them inspirational.
You forget about your life, and there's a bit of a theme coming back here. Every single question we've answered has then basically comes back to, what else do you do? Health and fitness is important, of course it is, and it's one of my core values, but there are also so many other things. So, it kind of comes back to the same thing. Okay, last question. This is from Teresa. Hi, Ben and Rachel. I'm a listener from the US, and I love your podcast show. I'm also a member of Rachel's Athletic Fox program. Awesome. The two of you have been such an inspiration to me, and I've learned so much, and I have become a healthier person because of you. I don't think I've heard a podcast that's covered something like this yet. Anyway, the question I have is about my boyfriend. He's 23, about 160 pounds and 6'2". He's very lean and also very active because he owns his own landscaping business and is constantly on the move. He works long hours outdoors, usually 6 days a week, but then has a lot of time off during the winter. He's also been very stressed as his business is growing larger and he's just bought his first home. Both are very exciting things, but they can also be very stressful for somebody his age. He doesn't have a huge appetite and he doesn't really eat a lot for a guy his age. A typical day for him would be an egg on toast for breakfast with coffee, a sandwich with deli meat for lunch, and then a light dinner and maybe a snack before bed. He doesn't eat a lot of veggies. After work, he is usually extremely exhausted. He really wants to gain weight and put on more muscle, but doesn't have a lot of extra energy to work out. And also, he has a hard time putting on weight. What would you recommend for him to eat throughout the day, and also how much? Also, any other recommendations as far as working out goes? Any supplements he could take that would help? Any advice would be much appreciated. Thanks, Teresa.
Okay, so I'm not going to answer the last two parts of this question because we've covered it a lot on the podcast already, and I believe that you need to piece that together yourself. Now, when I teach nutrition, I always talk about nutrition as fuel. And if you're looking at your lifestyle and you're saying, right, I have this problem right now with my lifestyle, and the problem that we're facing in this question is that someone is feeling tired and fatigued and doesn't really know how to eat right to feel energized. But what I can't see is time being invested to make that change. So in my eyes, what your boyfriend should be doing is at some point of the weekend, sitting down for a good 1, 2, 3, 4 hours and investing time at looking at their nutrition. Start to say, if I don't have enough energy and I'm struggling to maintain my weight and perform well in my job, I know that my diet is part of that. And I need to become critical and look at that. So let me sit down and work out what I usually eat on a daily basis. And we've had this described to us here. I'm eating an egg on toast for breakfast, which is probably about 300 calories tops. Let's say there's a bit of butter on the toast. Sandwich with deli meat for lunch, let's say about 450, 500 calories, depending on seasonings. And then let's just say dinner's 800 calories. So this guy's not taking on a lot of fuel at all for the amount of work he's doing. He's probably under-eating by a good 1,500 calories. Now, if he was critical and looking at his diet and trying to ask questions of himself, then I think he would very quickly work out that he's not simply meeting his bodily needs on a daily basis. So at this point, he needs to find out a strategy to eat more. So the first thing he can do is, for a start, have a bigger breakfast. Like, I know he hasn't got a huge appetite, but I think anyone can eat more than an egg on toast. Like, I can easily eat quadruple that. Now I know I've got a big appetite. But then, if he's really struggling with his appetite, he needs to say, well, I need easy ways to get more calories into my body. Now, if he's very physical, I would have no problem of including more liquid-based nutrition into this guy's meal. So you might have, for example, a litre of whole milk, and you drink 500 mils mid-morning and 500 mils mid-afternoon. Great way to get a load of high-quality calories into your body. Protein, fats, carbs, vitamins, minerals, really good nutrition milk is. So that's an easy way. Then you can start to put even a bit more mayonnaise on the deli sandwich. I know that sounds a bit silly, and you might say, oh, that's not ideal, but we're simply trying to get a bit more calories into the system here. Okay, let's look at it from a healthier perspective. Slice some avocado up and put it in that sandwich. Give him some dark chocolate. Really healthy food, really calorific. Get him to start eating a handful of nuts. So for me, there are loads of ways to really put tons of calories into a diet without adding much food volume at all. Like cheese, another great, yummy, 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 calorific, calorie source. So there's lots of simple answers, but for me, you're not being critical. And if you're sitting listening to this podcast right now and you've got a problem that you think I haven't answered, I bet if you sat down and got really critical about that, you could work it out. I have this problem. What could lead to this problem? And we've got this amazing thing called Google, which will help you with some answers. And I don't want that to sound like it's patronising, but there's a world of information out there if we choose to look for it, and find these solutions. And I don't believe he's ready to start doing more in the gym yet. I think he needs to get his diet to provide for his lifestyle, get energy, build himself up, because this stuff won't change around in a week. Take a month or two, and then once he's got more energy, say, right, I'm going to start going to the gym 2 or 3 times a week, and again, match the nutritional intake to what he's now doing in the gym. So if he's now going and burning an extra 400 calories in the gym, weightlifting, then he needs to replace that, and he probably needs to eat even more if he wants to gain weight and build muscle.
Absolutely, and this is almost the opposite of somebody who has, the question earlier from, I can't remember his name, Ollie. Ollie was talking about, wanting to eat till he was absolutely full. There's the opposite here where you almost need to, if we go to that unscientific term of stretching your stomach, to really get yourself used to eating bigger meals and get yourself used eating at more frequent meal times.
Do you know, one thing I don't get is not being able to eat enough. When people tell me that, I just don't get how it's even possible. I've got so many go-to foods in my house that if I need to eat more, I'll just dive into those foods. Like, for example, shop-bought granola is so calorific, it's painful. If you pour out a serving of what you would see as a normal serving, there's easily 700-800 calories in that bowl of granola. Peanut butter on toast, dark chocolate, cheese on toast with a bit of Marmite. Make a homemade sandwich with lots of cheese and beef in it. Beef, lamb, salmon, mackerel, really calorific meats. Mackerel's got 2.5 calories per gram. Really calorific. It's just so easy to eat calories. So I just don't get how people can't eat enough.
I 100% agree, and I've had some male clients, people who are really struggling to put on weight, and it's very easy to hide calories or have calories without adding bulk. An example would be I've had one guy who's really hard gainer, and I basically just get him with all of his rice to just basically add loads of butter to it, or olive oil, or another fat to his rice. So it's not exactly, you're not adding any more bulk to the meal, but you're adding, you eat perhaps fattier meats, or you add, you can add butter to your vegetables. It's very easy to actually get calories in. And when we're talking about somebody like this who's obviously exhausted by the time he gets home from work, well, the reason he's exhausted is having one egg for breakfast with toast. My girls eat 3 eggs as a baseline for their protein and nutritional intakes if they're choosing an egg-based breakfast. So when you're under eating like this, no wonder you're so exhausted. So start small and be consistent.
And unfortunately, someone that is a manual labour wouldn't have invested much time in their nutrition, unlikely till this point. And, they're probably not individuals, like many of us, until you get taught this stuff, you don't know how to do it. But, the chances are he's never counted calories in his life. He's never seen food like that as a number. But the problem is a key part of his lifestyle that's going wrong is he's not simply getting enough fuel in the tank to account for the energy expenditure. So at this point, there does need to be some tracking going on. We're now looking at, getting the diet fine-tuned, and you need to understand the calories in, calories out, especially in someone that has a high energy output.
Absolutely, and this is where I'm a massive advocate of calorie counting to make sure that you're actually getting enough. Of course, like calorie counting does play a massive role also in fat loss, but it's something that and it's a personal thing that the way I coach that. I think there's a time and a place for it, but I think it's overused and over relied upon. I think it's so important for somebody like this, and thinking of it as like hitting your goals and hitting your targets.
Right.
Awesome. Well, that's no more questions.
That is a wrap. Thank you very much for listening to the show. If you enjoyed the show, please let us know. Please say something on Facebook or Twitter. We've had a great buzz on Twitter after the shows of recently with George Bryant on the podcast and Ollie from Saviour Tea. Keep saying stuff to us on Twitter. Say, tag me and the Athletic Fox into your tweet. Say enjoyed the show, maybe ask a question. Just give us a high five. It's nice to communicate this stuff and let us know that it doesn't fall on deaf ears, because it doesn't, but it's nice to stay involved with you all. There's lots of people that listen to this podcast, so it's good to get involved with you. It is kind of a community, but my guest on the show next week is, I've forgotten, I think it might be Jason Ferrugia. Jason Ferrugia is coming up on the show. He was someone that when I was like 18, 19, 20, 21, I read like all his work.
Me too. He was really cool.
Yeah, he's a top dude. So I'm looking forward to interviewing him. We're having Andy McKenzie back on the podcast. And the rest of it I've forgotten. It's planned somewhere. It's on a sticky note at home somewhere.
Awesome.
Right.
Just on a side note there, I will admit I'm actually not very good on Twitter. I have to learn Twitter. I'm really good on Facebook, and that's where I do most of my work. So I will apologise if sometimes I'm a bit slow responding on Twitter. And I know it's a case of sometimes you just hit reply, but Ben does all these cool things where you almost like take a screenshot. I don't know what it is, where you can like retweet something. And so I'm a bit blonde when it comes to Twitter. So I apologise in advance. I am still learning. I'm a Twitter novice, but I'm a Facebook pro. So,
I like Twitter because it's 140 characters. Like Facebook, you can just lose life in it, but you can't lose life in Twitter. Reply to a couple of things, I'll leave it for a couple of hours, I might jump back on again. And it's nice, you just pick up with conversations, it doesn't go mad like Facebook. I like Twitter, it's cool, it's good, it's an easy way to talk to people.
Okay, I'm going to get onto it this week. I will start using Twitter a lot more, that's my commitment to you.
Yeah, commitment. Right, thank you for listening to the show. I will speak to you all soon, and stay awesome.
Ciao.
Bye. Hey everyone, Ben Cooper Radio, episode number 160. Now, unfortunately, we don't have Rachel Guy because she's off sunning herself in Vegas and Australia, and I'm sat here in rainy England in my office doing the podcast. But it doesn't matter because I love you all,